Hi, I'm John Fisher, and I'm going to be reading today the catch of the day for March 24, 2022, and it's titled Justice in Everyday Life. It's an injustice when where you live determines whether you live. Right here in America, there are zip codes in the same city where there can be a difference of as much as 20 years in the average lifespan of a person. It's an injustice when where you live determines whether you live. Wayne Bridegroom, our guest this week on Blog Talk Radio, tells a story about how a great grandmother in his church had a granddaughter who adopted a child from Mexico. And when she proudly introduced the child to the great grandmother's friends, one of them said, "Why doesn't she go back to where she came from?" Needless to say, great grandma was devastated that an act of such compassion and hope was met with such a racist reaction. The answer to that facetious question is clearly where she came from is a place with little hope of her living at all. This adoption was one small brick in the walls of injustices that exist all over the world today, and something to celebrate. There are small things and big things we can do to right the wrongs that have been done in society. But standing for justice is not just a social issue, it's a personal one. Justice is something that enters into all our relationships. The Old Testament meaning of righteousness means to be right with God, but it doesn't stop there. Our idea of righteousness is mainly about personal morality, but the Hebrew idea of righteousness is not only to be right with God, but right with everybody else. It means treating all your relationships with generosity, fairness, and equity, which sounds a lot like justice. In fact, the two words are often used together in the Hebrew. That would mean that justice is a part of our everyday lives and relationships. Think about that. Do you treat everyone in your life with generosity, fairness, and equity? Even those closest to you? Justice is a much bigger thing than we typically realize. This is John Fisher for Grace Turned Outward.